First century sources we have dealt with. You are rejecting based on a 7th century or later source written by God knows who, written God knows where. I'm asking you, on what basis are you taking this resource seriously?
Okay, fine. So I didn't come here to debate this. Okay,
No problem. I'm not suggesting that you did,
I just
but
want
I'm
to-
asking you, on what basis are you taking the Quran seriously?
Let me finish my point on the circular reasoning. Okay, I said that someone was made to look like Jesus.
Don't go to the story. Not interested. Comment on the authority. Why do you think the Quran, written by God knows who, God knows where, God knows when, could be considered at all? I'm not interested in the story that the book might give. I am interested in finding out why it should even be considered a qualified resource. I'll give you a simple example, analogy. Yeah? I'll give you a simple analogy. If you have an eye problem, yeah, what kind of sources would you go to get it sorted?
An eye doctor.
Someone who is a qualified eye doctor. Yeah. So the first thing you need to establish is if he is a qualified eye doctor. Yeah. Or at least a medical doctor, even if not an eye specialist. Yeah. At the least. Or someone who knows about the eye, maybe from some other way of practicing medicine. Yeah.
Okay.
Would you be interested in finding out some fellow who is sitting there who you have no clue has any information on your eye or anyone's eye? Would you like to find out what his ideas are?
So what? I'm just curious. What does this have to do with what we're talking about?
Well, it is because this is how logic works. I'm giving you an analogy of
the
how,
answer is-
please, Adam. If you have an eye infection, and if there is a gentleman here who you have no way of verifying of whether he has any insight about eyes at all, would you be willing to put a medicine that he gives on your eye?
No.
Of course not. So the first question is not what the medicine has, whatever he is trying to give you has. The first question is, who is he? What
Okay.
is his qualification? That's the first question you need to ask when you are looking at a person whose qualification is not yet established.
So you're asking me to find the qualification.
Exactly. When it comes to the Quran, which is trying to comment about what happened in the first century, Judea and Samaria, before you are trying to find out what it says, I would like to find out why it should be taken seriously. That's the first thing you need to find out. And so that is why I'm repeatedly asking, why? What is the qualification of the Quran? Because clearly it doesn't have a natural qualification. It's not from the first century. It's not from Judea and Samaria of the first century. So it does not have a natural qualification. Now you're going to supernatural qualification. And so that is where I'm asking you, what is that qualification?
Okay. So the qualification for the Quran comes on events that were earlier than it. Fine. So the Quran is a holy book, and that's my answer, right?
No, that's your conclusion. I'm asking you, what gives you the confidence that that is the case?
What gives me the confidence that the Quran is a holy book?
Is the Quran is from God? And that is why I asked you that question long time ago.
Okay. I didn't come to debate this. I'm not a religious scholar.
But I'm not suggesting that you came to debate this. My
came to
point is,
debate on the
unless you are able to demonstrate this, don't take the Quran seriously.
I just came to clarify why we do not believe in the crucifixion of Jesus.
I'm not interested in your belief. You are suggesting repeatedly you haven't got a case, so don't talk to me about your belief. I, unlike a Muslim, will not take your belief statement seriously before you establish your qualification.
So you talk
And
in a
that is where,
condescending
I'm talking to what?
You speak in a condescending way.
I'm not speaking I'm speaking in
There
a
needs to be
rational
some mutual respect.
I'm speaking in a rational way. I'm asking you repeatedly. I'm not condescending you at all. If you see me, if you think that I'm condescending, it only means your ideas of what deserves respect is ridiculous.
Okay.
The Quran,
Yes.
until you are convinced and you are able to provide evidence to suggest that the Quran is indeed a supernatural source, don't believe in it because it goes against normal history.
Well, I do have evidence. I'm starting to list that evidence, and you just cut me off every time I list every single point. So, please.
Now, you're going back. We are going back to the same place. You are saying you have evidence. I asked for evidence earlier. The first evidence you said gave was literary quality. That's the first evidence you gave. I demonstrated literary evidence. Anyone who thinks literary evidence is any reasonable, useful information for something to be God is ridiculous. He lacks basic logical skill. He lacks basic, skill in interpreting history. Just because something is of good literary value, no one even thinks that's a starting point to think that it is from God. There is plenty of literature which is of high literary value, which is not of God, like the works of Shakespeare. And so talking about literary skill is useless.
Yeah, but you need to let me finish my second point. And my third point.
Please, yeah, so don't repeat the first point. Now, second point. What is your evidence that the Quran is from God?
So, well, you did discard my first point unjustly.
Because I've demonstrated it is useless. Now I'm moving on. Do you have a useful point to use to say that the Quran is from God? Any useful point?
Say that the Quran. Okay. Yes, I do.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. So first of all, I'm not. There are many miracles in the Quran, but anyways, I will mention them because
You won't mention.
okay, I could mention them, but you could just say the coincidence and all that stuff.
What? Man? There's nothing miraculous in the Quran.
Okay.
Nothing whatsoever.
Alright. I'm a Quran scholar. I'm not a Muslim
No,
scholar.
but you're trying to make a case. At least for the case you're trying to make, you should have some information, without which you shouldn't make a case. The Quran, there is nothing miraculous in the Quran. Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nothing.
Okay, what about it's I just told you about its extraordinary quality.
You worship the dog.
Please.
You worship dog. What is dog? Ask
Don't be distracted.
Really? Ask him the question. What do you think about dog?
Adam.
Dog is better than human.
Come here, come. Please come.
He will say.
Ignore
He
it.
will
Just
say.
please,
Dog
if you
is
keep
better
distance,
than a
please.
human.
If you please keep distance, maybe you can come this way. What evidence? What evidence? What? Please just ignore.
Okay.
What? So, what miraculous things you find in the Quran?
Okay, what miraculous things you'll find? Okay, listen. I'll do my research and I'll come back here at a different time. I'll do my research.
But do you see, so far there's no circular reasoning. We did meticulous linear reasoning. There was nothing circular involved. Because, so if I could just summarize for you before you go, please pursue, do more research. But if I could summarize, I am a Christian.
Okay.
Because I am a Christian, I am a rational being. Because the Bible trains me in rational thought. So I am rational. I don't believe in fantasy stories. I don't.
So you don't believe in miracles?
Now listen carefully. I said I don't believe in fantasy stories.
Yeah, but you just said my story was my story was a miracle, and you said that was a fantasy story.
Yeah, I'll tell you what the difference is.
Okay.
Both of them. What is the difference between a fantasy story and a miracle? A miracle is something that has evidence to back up.
Okay.
When someone can't back up a claim, it's a fantasy story. Fantasy, that's the definition of a fantasy. Fiction, pulp fiction, one of those fictional works. Why do I believe? Did I say I don't believe in miracles? No, I didn't. I believe in my God. I believe in miracles. I believe in miracles recorded in the Bible. Why? Because I am able to give a case for them, including in the resurrection of Jesus. For the resurrection of Jesus, I provide a historical case for it. And because I am able to provide a historical case, I don't believe in fantasy, but I believe in miracles. And therefore I am a Christian. So, as a Christian, I start with basic history, with no assumptions involved, no belief statements involved. I start with basic history. If you go through my book, I'll give you details about historical resources that I use.
Okay.
and the history behind them. I go with basic history first. I comment on the rejected material. So these are the historical resources I cite. I comment on the rejected material. See, appendices. I go with details. I comment on the rejected gospels. You see, I list a number of them. Can you see all of them? Can you see all of that? I list a number of them. I categorize them because I have researched them. I categorize them and I give reasons as to why, even though I take them as historical material, I will demonstrate that they are not historical material in the same sense of the Gospels, because these are later literature from a distant area. All the rejected material. So I go through my research as a sensible man, as a rational being, and then once I have decided material, these are qualified and this is what it is saying, then I go to arrive at reasonable conclusions. And the conclusions tell me that Jesus must be God. Inescapable. That he died, he came back alive. That he came into this world to die for our sins. These are inescapable conclusions that I find. As a Christian, once again, as a Christian, not my belief statements, but conclusions based on research. Contrast that with what has happened right now. I've also studied the Quran. I've studied the Quran in detail. I've written a book or one book on the Quran already. You can see that book here. I'm writing another book right now. This is one book that I've written on the Quran. The coming Islamic takeover of the West. So I have plenty of information here from the Quran. From the Quran. It's all information from the Quran. This is not polemical material, this is Quranic material. I go through the Quran in detail.
That's the verse from the Quran.
Say again.
Is that verses from the Quran?
Yeah, all the passages from the Quran I cite from your sources to demonstrate my case. And so my point to you is, I have studied the Quran. And I am telling you, if anyone thinks the Quran is a qualified source, God help them. Because the Quran, when you go through the details, is a ridiculous source which has no merit whatsoever. No one has a clue who put together the Quran. No one has a clue when it was put together, where it was put together. But all of us know for sure, when we get to the bottom of the truth, that this clearly could not be from God. It's very simple. I can provide a full case when you like, but that's the case. Research in the meantime. Could I give you my email? Do you have your phone on you? On YouTube, my channel is called Operation Stephen. And you can get in touch. We do live streams. You can come on. But this, I encourage you to take this as a lifelong search.
Yeah, I'll come back in a week and we'll
God's blessings to you. Thank you very much. Hello, sir.